Welcome to Gaia's Love, a podcast of brief messages to help humanity bridge the gap to the new earth. My name is Vivienne Gerard. It is my delight to be a scribe for consciousness today, sharing the wisdom that flows through from Source. Here we go. Episode 126. It is a Wednesday here in Cincinnati, and the sun is pouring in through my window. There is a beautiful layer of snow on the ground. Everything turned white again, and it is bitterly cold here in the Midwest. We have school closings all across the area because the temperatures this morning were so cold that the schools didn't want children waiting at the bus stop, and so everyone's off school, which is so fun. It's like a surprise bonus day of being able to slow down the pace and exhale. And so as I arrive here, I've had all these different words or titles kind of bouncing around in my mind as I meditated and prepared for this podcast. And the one that's most present is preparation, which I've kind of wondered if I've already used that title, so I don't know. I just decided to go with it. And so we're going to just sort of meander through whatever it is that's wanting to take form for me, for us in this space, and we'll see what it becomes. What I was reflecting on is how we always have the choice of how to respond to unexpected events. It's what I read from the Gene Keys last night in Soul Stories. It's this idea that many of us are waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something bad to happen, for something to throw us off, for some way for control to be taken from us, or for us to be overtaken, with life and nature and whatever unforeseen circumstances will happen. And we're always sort of on guard for that unexpectedness. And so our systems, our bodies are wired with this stress. This is what Richard Rudd talked about in the Gene Keys that I read. We're sort of wired for this stress, and when it happens, there's a sense of almost satisfaction that we were prepared for the bad thing, and then the bad thing happened and we were ready for it. And so we're almost looking for the bad thing to happen and then calling that towards us, because then we're prepared and we're ready to handle it. And it gets so messy. Even as I'm trying to describe it, you can see how it's this loop, this swirl of energy that gets us sort of caught up in it's almost like a little vortex, a black hole that sucks you down into it. We're expecting something bad, we create something bad, the something bad happens, it reinforces that something bad is going to happen, so then we expect more of something bad, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting. And so this snow day, what they're calling it is a winter cold day, although the snow, maybe we manifested the snow because so many of us were using the word snow, even though we were talking about winter cold. We got all of it. We got the snow and the cold, which means there's ice. So we got all of them. But when we have that unexpected thing arise or arrive or happen, in every one of those moments that the, in quotes, bad thing happens, we have the choice in how we respond to it. Always. So we can sit in our little black hole and swirl and think and worry about the bad thing that's going to happen and call it towards us. Even in the moment in which it arrives, we have the choice to decide, is it actually a bad thing? Or is it a good thing? Or is it a neutral thing? Or is it just a moment? And that moment's just going to pass, and then some other moment will arrive. We have the option always of how we engage with the thing that is arriving. What may help is perhaps perspective from how I've experienced snow days. So I didn't grow up with snow, which meant the one time we had snow when I was younger. I mean, I grew up, we lived overseas in England for a while, and it snowed a lot, so I remember snow from there. And then when we were in South Africa, we had a little bit of snow, like once or twice. We had just maybe a dusting of snow, and it was the coolest thing you've ever imagined. We were so excited to be outside in the snow and to play in it. We had no clothes that were preparing us for it, but it was so fun. It was such a treat. And then when we came here to the States and we are in the Midwest, we had some years with no snow, some years with a lot of snow. And growing up, it didn't really impact me unless school was off. If we're out of school, it was the best news ever. Other than that, it didn't bother me because I wasn't really driving in it. Once I started driving it, I had all the fears of losing control on a road in a car, and had that happen many times, which reinforced that it's really dangerous to drive in the snow. When I was a young mom and my kids were home with me, it meant the best party day possible. Everyone would come over. We had this great backyard with a hill that you could slide down, and all the friends would come over, and we'd take turns with all the sleds and freeze and run down the hill and bang into each other, and it was just so much fun. So snow days were huge party days. And then we moved to this house, and my kids were a little older, and we needed to get them to school, and most times there was school, and so I'd have to drive on the road that really scared me because I had slid on it. And so snow brought all this fear. I'd be afraid of a snow day because that meant that I'd have to get on the road and my car wasn't good and it would slide. And it became this worry that took a lot of my attention. And now, here today, it's the same thing. It's the same snow arriving in the same city in the same ways that it always has before. And my experience today is this exhale of like, oh, we've got the whole day. We've got the whole day. We don't have to go anywhere. My husband and my son are home. One's chilling on the couch. The other one's chilling on the couch playing video games. Like, it's so good. It's so peaceful. The sun is shining in. I'm creating a podcast talking about snow days. Like, the only thing that has changed in those scenarios has been me. And the external, meaning as my life has moved along and my children have grown up and my responsibilities have changed and the type of work that I'm doing has changed and my schedule has changed, the ways that I engage with the world has shifted each time. And this place that I'm in right now is different than the days where I would race down the hill with the little kids, or I would drive in the snow on the scary roads and grip my steering wheel really tight. My engagement with all of it has shifted as I've moved through these seasons in my own journey, my own life. And yet, I'm the one that's changing. It's not the snow that's changing, or the roads, or the cars, or the people. I'm changing in my engagement with how life brings me these experiences. And none of those ways were wrong. Each of the phases I've gone through has taught me something. So when I've been afraid of driving on the road, I've learned to trust my instincts. I've learned to say no so I don't have to drive if I don't need to. I've learned to ask for support if I want someone else to drive me. I've learned to be prepared, to put salt in my car, to check the roads, the forecast before I go somewhere. Those days where I've played outside with my children, I've learned about the temperature and the way how our clothes get wet really fast, and so we've got to make sure we're watching that we're not getting frostbite, and to make sure that we don't drag all that mud and mess into the house. And each one of the phases has taught something different, and none of them have been wrong. It's just what phase I find myself in the moment. And that brings me to this word of preparation. Every single experience that we create in our days, in our lives, is just preparing us for the next one. And then we arrive in the next experience with a little more knowledge, a little more awareness, a little more understanding, hopefully more compassion for ourselves and for other people, more love, more joy, more enjoyment of the journey itself. And then we move through that moment. Then we're better prepared for the moment that's coming after that. So Less judgment is always a good thing, especially when it's self-judgment. Less criticism and analysis and projection onto others is a really good thing, because we're all just becoming more prepared. We're all just moving along through our journeys and enjoying each of the phases that we go through. I believe that's what our planet is constantly showing us. She just moves through her seasons, and if things get a little out of balance, she extends winter a little longer and shortens spring. And if she needs more summertime, she extends that later, and we have a shorter fall. And if she needs more cold time, we have a longer winter or a shorter winter. Everything is just in flow with what our planet is needing to continuously self-correct. And so she just keeps moving along, preparing herself for the next moment. When we can see that in the seasons, in the weather around us, and then apply that same ease to our human journeys, we can start to get into sync energetically with the planet, with humanity, with consciousness shifting on our planet. We can kind of get into sync with things with a little more grace, a little more joy, and way more peace. And then when these days arrive, that suddenly we get a whole day at home, instead of worrying about what we could have been doing or should have been doing, or trying to stick to the original schedule or plan that we had at the beginning, we can just sort of let it all go and flow. So today I slept in till 8 o'clock. Normally we're up at 6, and then took a long bath, and then made a big breakfast for my husband and my son, and sat and ate with them. We all had breakfast together at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday in January. What a bonus. What a beautiful bonus that was. How awesome just to sit and chat about whatever. The podcast will get made when it's done. It'll be shared when it's supposed to. It's all good. I might take a walk outside and let my dog feel what it's like when the temperatures are freezing, so he can sit at the window and go, I'm so glad I'm inside instead of out in that cold. It just becomes more fun. And the only thing that has shifted is how I'm experiencing it, how I choose to show up for it, how I choose to allow myself to receive the beautiful surprises like this day. Yeah, I hope you are having just as beautiful a day as I am. Thank you for tuning in to today's vibration. Let's take this message of pure love out into all of our communities and continue expanding love here on Gaia. So much love from my heart to yours.